Hello, my name is Will. I'm the host of The Bald Book Geek. How is everyone? Before we get going with this book haul and wrap-up thingy, like, subscribe, share on social media. Let's get this one started. So, Dragon Age, 12 Nights. This is a short story compilation set within the Dragon Age universe. I'm a fan of Dragon Age. I've played through them a couple of times. They're not my favourite type of RPG, but they're still fun, and you know, there's been a few books set within them, so Titan sent me this. Of course I said yes, and they've actually been enjoyable, so there we go. I also picked up Imperial Light. This is a book I've been looking for a very long time. It was a fantasy novel published in 1994, and it seems it and its sequel, and actually her work, Mary Conran, has vanished into obscurity. They're available on Kindle with terrible covers. Yet they're not available, they're only available secondhand in paperback and hardback. This came from the tip shop, the shop at the dump, for 10p. And I've been looking for this, and it's a great fantasy novel. I read it years ago. I actually read all of her work, and I got rid of them when I was a teenager. And I'm so kicking myself. By the way, a fantasy novel with a strong female lead existed before 2010. I know, novels existed before 2010. You wouldn't know that by watching BookTube though, would you? Or the book community, full stop. Pre-2010 is the Dark Ages, according to them. But anyway, this is a really good book. Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. I've wanted to read this for a long time. It was in the charity shop for like £1. I love Neil Gaiman. He's a fantastic writer. And you know what? Gave my money to charity buying this book. So this is his take on Norse mythology. It's a retelling of it, but it's complicated to explain. I've read through this. It's fantastic. I love his writing. I love everything about his work. And I'm so down for that. Also, with this beard, come on, I have to let my little inner Viking out. I mean, it's typical Neil Gaiman fare in the best way possible. So this one is not for me. This is a gift for my friend's little boy who collects How to Train Your Dragon books. And he's basically now got every edition of the series. There it is, film edition of the book. So I actually might read this myself at some point, just because I love Toothless. So who doesn't love Toothless? So this one I've read. Now this is a retelling of part of the Iliad and the Odyssey, deals with the Trojan War, Helen of Sparta, and it just goes from there. This is very typical, sloshy, romantic, historical fiction. I enjoy this kind of stuff. Give me some Spartans, give me some swords, give me some sex. I'm down for that, so there we go. I collect these. So this is a novelization of the original Resident Evil video game from 1996 on the PlayStation 1 and Sega Saturn. I collect Resident Evil stuff. I used to have all of the books and I got rid of them, and I regret it. These are super cheesy zombie novels. This is literally the first game. There's a bit more backstory, some stuff that's not canon, and I do love in the back that you've got like the old ads for stuff like an action figure, and you could get the soundtrack CDs. Who remembers this stuff? Like, seriously. And I have to say, I'm so going to be diving headfirst into this. Titan also sent me Cursed, a short story collection featuring Neil Gaiman. The minute I saw Neil Gaiman, I was like, gimme, gimme, gimme. I love short stories. Why I would say short story compilation is always a mixed bag. The list of writers alone means there's something in here for everyone, I think. And I just went into it. I inhaled this. Some stronger than others. The Neil Gaiman one, for example, was fantastic. M.R. Cleary, fantastic. So there's, I would say, about 3/4 of these I loved. I'm so happy I got to read them. And that's Cursed, short story compilation. The writer sent me this, and I inhaled this book with a passion. The writer contacted me, and it's a small press publication, Tell or the Adventures of the Middle, L.N. Mayer. Now, I inhaled this book. This is, for want of a better word, think a school disappearance. It's a bit of mystery, a bit of magic. It's almost like a dark fairy tale, and I have a weakness for books like that. I love a good dark fairy tale, of course. I would give this like 5 out of 5. It's really strong, really enjoyable. You need to read this. It's good. And I was surprised how good it was. because I think with books like this, you know, you always kind of go in blind, and I was a bit worried, and I really enjoyed it. I have one tiny criticism, and it's not actually a criticism of the book. It's the formatting of the pages sometimes is a bit weird. That's Amazon. That's nothing to do with the writer. That's Amazon and how they print stuff and how they do text. It's so complicated. I'm glad that I got to read this. Really strong, really enjoyable. And read it. I will be covering this in a later video, more in depth, which will be covering sort of indie books, full stop. Another one from Titan, NVK. I always get that the wrong way around. So, long story short, set in 2012, he ends up walking a man in Shanghai. He meets a beautiful young Western woman called, hence the NVK, which is her initials, the physical attraction behind them, and they embark on an intoxicating affair. But she's not what she appears to be. He's driven to find out more about her, and he's drawn into a web of intrigue, mystery, and horror. Is she a ghost, a demon, or is the living dead walking the streets of 21st century Shanghai? That's this book. This is good. This is really good. Really strong, creepy. I love a good horror. I'm so happy. The writing is good and it's tense, and there are moments where the hairs stand up on the back of your neck and you're like, yeah. And the fact that it's got reviewed for things like BBC Culture have talked about this book. A little more historical fiction, Luncheon on the Boating Party. Now, this is one of my favourite paintings. The story behind this painting is probably more interesting than the story, and this is partly the story behind it. The people, if I do that without breaking the spine, although it's a second-hand book, the people in this painting are fascinating, and the stories around them. This is basically a fictionalised account of that, because we'll never know what was truly said, although it is based on some history. This is a really strong, great read. If a bit slow, I will say that. It's not like you can go into this and burst through it. It's a focused read. So, I got this book out the library, then my friend bought me a copy in paperback. No, I bought a copy in paperback, then my friend bought me a copy in hardback. The Familiars! I'm really looking forward to reading her next novel as well. What can I say? Which is 16th century. I'm down. Like, I've read this, I've talked about this before. Really strong novel. I'm so glad that I got it. Is one ready? Superman! The Death and Life of Superman. This is oddly hard to come by, and it was in my local tip shop. My resale shop at the tip. Someone put this in a bag to go. I am so glad that I got my teeth into it. I can't wait to read it, because I've been looking for this for a very long time. And finally, Anne Rice, Leisure. I have wanted this in hardback for years. I love Anne Rice novels, and I've collected, basically now, I own all of her work in one form or another in hardback. She's one of the few writers I collect. This is the one that I've been missing for a long time. Again, this came from the dump. Literally the resale shop. It has those horrible page things that make it difficult to open, but I'm so happy. My collection of Anne Rice novels is complete. Yee!